Back again with another conversation from another very smart executive at Cox Communications. A lot of these conversations that I'm having, if you're watching some of these on YouTube, are ultimately going to be going into my AI playbook book, which I'm doing in partnership with Cox Communications. So the link to that book will be in the notes to this video. So please feel free to go and download it. It is free. It's made up of a bunch of writings that I've done both in Forbes and other places. I think if you're in business, you will really enjoy reading it. And again, this conversation will be a chapter in that book. Jeff, first of all, I'm speaking to Jeff Breaux. Jeff is the Chief Commercial Officer at Cox Communications. Jeff, first of all, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad you were able to take some time.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Sure. So first of all, let's just like set where we are here. Like, so what do you do as Chief Commercial Officer at Cox Communications? Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about your job and also how you got there.
My role is essentially stewarding and facilitating all of our B2B, so our business to business organization. At Cox Communications, that is the core of our business, the legacy of our business from a broadband and connectivity standpoint for small biz all the way up through very large businesses in the markets we serve. But we've got a full portfolio of other B2B adjacencies. We've got a great commercial fiber business. So think disruptive commercial fiber in a company called Segra that I lead as well.
Right.
We have a managed IT and cloud company called RapidScale that does, again, true managed IT, managed cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, do consulting work and just do great work there. And then the last thing I'll point out is we have a great little, I would characterize them as a little systems integrator that does visitor experience. So think stadiums, venues, convention centers, all the managed Wi-Fi and the operations that go with those entities to be sure that they can serve the customers and their visitors and their exhibitors and their patrons. And so I think your other question was how I got here.
Yeah.
So I've been with Cox for just about 12 years, and
Wow.
before that, I spent a couple of decades more with Sprint Communications. So kind of a background in telecom and tech. Went to undergrad and grad school for tech. So kind of been in the tech space for a number of decades, close to 40.
That is really great to hear. And where are you based out of?
I'm based in Atlanta, or at least my wife and my pillow live in Atlanta, and I live on Delta.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, and I'm sure you've had these questions as well, and I'm also sure you're, part of the reason behind this sort of, initiative. I mean, I'm doing this branded book with Cox about AI, and we're also going to be doing some media as well to promote the book. Cox Communications is a big telecommunications company. This book is targeted. It's a B2B book. It's targeted at businesses, small, medium-sized enterprises as well, like using AI. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts, Jeff, like why is Cox interested in this topic? Like what does AI have to do with what you guys do?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So AI, and my perception and my feeling is
Hmm.
is the evolution, the revolution that is kind of the AI phenomena right now. We are playing on many different planes. First of all, think about what we do, the core of our business, what we do for a living. We're connecting, our business customers, certainly our residential customers, we're connecting them to the AI engines in the cloud and
Yeah.
in the data centers that all of the hyperscalers and the AI, ML, the models and things like that are housed. So the fabric of our infrastructure is indeed what we do for a living. That is, I would characterize it as the air, the water, the utility of getting to the capabilities that you would think of as AI. We have a company called RapidScale that does managed IT and cloud, as I mentioned before. They're a powerhouse from a consulting standpoint. They help companies, embrace AI, bringing business outcomes and value to their companies versus simply dabbling and maybe having cost overruns.
Right.
So we're helping customers take that modernization journey in their ecosystem. Obviously, we are also building infrastructure, purpose-built infrastructure for the hyperscaler. So think of the big three public cloud brands, other hyperscalers that would be household names for folks. They are building data centers at a phenomenal pace.
Right.
But to power those data centers, in addition to fuel, you need fiber power and and infrastructure connectivity between data centers. And so we are a big player there. And then lastly, as a company, we put AI to work in our business.
Right.
From a standpoint of modernizing how we're going attacking the marketplace, identifying customers, all the things you would expect us to be doing to make sure that we're thinking smartly about how we grow our business and serve our customers well. So there's probably 3, 4 layers that I mentioned there of
Yeah.
why we're excited, why I think that the kind of the AI revolution is going to be very, very impactful for our customers and impactful for us as a business.
Great answer. I spoke to a couple other people from Cox already about how you guys are using AI internally. I kind of feel I have those bases covered. I'm definitely interested in your thoughts externally. As you're pitching this to your customers and as you're positioning yourself in the world, is the pitch that you're a telecommunications company. For me to be using ChatGPT or Copilot or Grok, I get that I need to have a mobile device. I also get that out there somewhere in the cloud, there's the data centers that's serving up, processing all their large language models with all the data, whatever. But like, I can't get to those data centers unless I've got good connectivity. And is that what Cox saying is like, hey, when we're competing against other telecommunications providers, but we have the best connectivity. If you're going to be leveraging AI, which needs fast speeds in processing, we're the guys that you should go to make sure you get those. Is that what your
Yeah,
pitch is?
it's certainly part of the pitch, particularly to SMB. What you just described is, look,
Mm.
you're going to need resilient, you know, connectivity to the internet and to the entities that are powering AI. Whether
Mm.
you're buying something more off the shelf, like the solutions you mentioned with ChatGPT or Grok or whatever other solution it is, but as you go up market, those business customers know that there's something here that they want to embrace, they want to explore. They know that they may be seeing their competitors already embrace the power of AI,
Mm.
whether it's the tools you mentioned, fitting their business, but they may not have the talent, the expertise, candidly, the courage to put, to venture into how do I now put my data, my tools to work with AI. And so we do that as well. We consult with them to say, okay, how might you as a mid-market customer, as an enterprise customer, approach this opportunity, but certainly, as I mentioned before, a challenge, because you can do a lot of things with the AI capabilities that are available today, off the shelf tools, but also, public private cloud, and put yourself in a position where you're incurring a lot of cost potentially without driving the business value that
Sure.
the customer seeks. And so our pitch to them is, let us help you as the experts of taking that modernization journey to ensure that you're making the investments and you're delivering the outcome and the business value. And that's part of the magic of what RapidScale brings in complement to our core connectivity solutions.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about rapid scale, excuse me. Like, how does that work into Cox's vision? And why do you see rapid scale being an important part of your AI related solutions?
Yeah. So for us, RapidScale is what we think is a very, very powerful adjacency to what we do, again, in the core of our business around connectivity, networking solutions, whether it's, Metro Ethernet or, other voice solutions, UCaaS solutions, all of those things we would think of as telephony and connectivity.
Right.
That's kind of the core and the heartbeat of our business. We truly believe that what RapidScale does for a living is a natural adjacency. Frequently we say in the industry, behind the DMARC,
Okay.
behind the wall of where the customer is, where their IT stack, their workloads, their applications, the heartbeat of their business and how they run their business, whatever business they may be in. That's a very important, part of the tech ecosystem they're managing. And that's what RapidScale helps them do, is manage their tech ecosystem to make sure it's one, they're simplifying IT, they're making sure they're getting the right cost, but also as they explore modernizing, going to the public cloud, private cloud, leveraging IT, they need an expert by their side who has world-class technical chops like RapidScale does. I mean, they come for the size of company they are at this stage, rapid growth, but the size of company, they come to the table with unbelievable technical chops across the landscape of public cloud, private cloud. They're certified in all 3 public clouds. They're VMware Cloud Framework certified. I mean, they come to the table with the right, power and punch to make sure they can help our clients get to the right outcome, the right value.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Obviously managed service providers like RapidScale are super important. Infrastructure providers are super important, like what, Cox is doing. You had mentioned earlier about helping clients adopt, and adapt to AI as well. Are you, my perception is that you guys are experts in the infrastructure. Like that's how I like view a
Mm.
telecommunications company. But it sounds like though you're extending beyond that. Like you would go into a business and be like, hey, it's not just about the infrastructure, but we can actually help you use AI better or leverage AI for your business. Can you give me like some examples of that? Like how would you help a business
Yeah,
leverage AI?
yeah. Many businesses know they want to begin to put AI to work.
Right.
Well, if they're a legacy business, then maybe that doesn't have, the technical depth. There's many verticals that don't have as much technical depth. They just depth. They focus on the core of their business and they
Right.
don't have armies of folks doing technology. But what it means is likely that their data, their environment is not in a position, not well suited for AI to take, for them to take advantage of AI, to put intelligence on top of that data. So part of what RapidScale does is help them get organized,
Right.
right? Get their data in a position where it can be actionable by the language models and by other AI models, by agentic AI. So that's part of pre the pre-managed, but like a consulting service that RapidScale provides, and again certified in many regards with respect to that preparation journey. And then when it comes time to implement, they can help the customer take the implementation journey. And then if they want to manage it themselves, we will turn them loose to manage it. But if they want help managing their environment, they will manage it for them. And so they come to the table with the right AI and public and private cloud certs to make sure the customer can take the end-to-end journey of, more concept, ambition
Hmm.
through operating and managing costs.
Got it. Got it. See, it's a really interesting play. I mean, it's, you've got a telecommunications company that's investing in and now owning a company that does not only manage services, but, gets data in order, file
Yeah.
structures in order, data saved. I mean, again, no, and I talk about this when I speak to, your groups about AI, like you're not going to be running AI automation on lousy data, particularly, I mean, and data is the core of it all, isn't it?
Right. It is. And many companies, most companies, weren't really focused on having their data in a fashion that it could be actionable. In fact, many times there's varying sources of truth. Maybe there's legacy platforms that aren't easily as accessible and integrated into more modern solutions. So frequently we do app modernization as
Yeah.
we help in other words, their workloads, the applications they use every day in
Yeah.
their business have to be modernized and framed and suited for a public private cloud. And then, obviously, can take the journey, the more cohesive journey to deploying AI.
Got it. All right, that's great.
Yeah.
I want to get back to infrastructure for just again to getting your thoughts on this. The whole data center thing. I mean, you guys, the money right now that's being made in AI, is in infrastructure. I mean, even the largest AI, I mean, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, they're spending billions of dollars and still not seeing big returns on investment yet, but they're laying the groundwork. They're building all these data centers that are out there. My son, by the way, works for Microsoft in the data center group. He's like a mechanical engineer. Yeah, I know. So he's doing all this. And I see like, for a company like Cox, Communications, like your AI is drawing you guys in because again, these data centers need a pipeline to the rest of the world, don't they? That's you're part of that infrastructure, opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we are. And while the proliferation of data centers and kind of the acceleration of it related to AI is new, and that's the new kind of
Yes.
revolution. We are not new to building infrastructure. I mean,
Right.
back in the day, we were doing some very bold things for school systems, and then it evolved into doing very bold things and purpose-built things for the wireless carriers.
Right.
And now that is evolved into ever more so, bigger conduit, bigger fiber count for the hyperscalers, and that's not it's not new, but it's certainly accelerating, and we are part and parcel of that. We are partners with all of them, and we're doing great work because they are putting data center density and connectivity density in most of the major markets in the U.S. and making sure they have proximity to the stakeholders and constituents they seek, whether
Yep.
it's low latency eyeballs or capacity for workload. So they each have a different a slightly different objective, but we are part and parcel to building the infrastructure. Like I said before, the data center is a physical building, but it needs fuel, energy,
Yes.
power to operate. But if it's self-contained without connectivity, it's not going to serve much of a purpose for the ambition they have. So.
So, are you part of this, involvement with, data centers? Like, for example, and I'm talking about you, Jeff, particularly as commercial, on commercial sales, like, if Microsoft is going to be building a data center, in one of the areas that, Cox is operating in, that sounds like an opportunity for, okay, you want to go to Microsoft and be like, hey, we want to make sure that we're connecting into your data center. That's like, a business opportunity. Do you personally, is that like do you get involved in that? Or are you more on the customer side and the end user side?
Yeah, yeah. Well, my organization gets involved in both.
Okay.
But when your question on around Microsoft or other hyperscalers,
Yeah.
typically they are engaging us, and we have teams that are with and speaking to them daily around projects that we have in place. But typically they're approaching us when it's an empty field
Right.
and making sure that we and other partners, not just us,
Yeah.
are very much aware of, look, we want to go from point A to point Z, these A and Z locations between data centers, whether it's a Microsoft data center, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
or whether it's a third party data center that
Yeah.
they need to get connectivity to. So that infrastructure of connectivity is something they plan out well in advance. And again, frequently it may be when there is not even ground broken yet. So we're part of that. So my team is right there, operating with the hyperscalers every day. Both the core of my team from a hyperscaler standpoint, but as well as our SAGRA organization, they
Mm.
both do a phenomenal job for our partners. And then on the other side, where we're trying to help customers take that modernization journey, the AI journey, we have teams that are looking those small business or medium sized business or enterprise customers in the eye every day and helping them navigate the technical thing.
Okay. No, that's great. That is great. Well, so you're really in the middle on both sides, and
Yeah,
that's really
yeah.
okay. So when you do you personally have customer interaction? I mean, are you dealing with
Oh,
businesses they're using? I'm
the
assuming
the
yes,
best
right?
the best part of my day or
Yeah.
my week or my month is when I'm with customers. So yeah, I do personally have customer interactions. I love it. It is
Okay.
very rewarding, and our teams do such a great job for our customers. We have some unbelievable partnerships. So it probably is daily, whether I'm either having a conversation or having an email. But that's it's not what I get to do as often as I'd like.
Fair enough. What are you talking about with your customers? Like, what are they asking, particularly about AI and technology? Like, what
Yeah,
what are you
yeah.
hearing?
I think 6 months, a year and a half ago, it was a curiosity of what the art of the possible was
Yeah.
for them. But now what they're talking about is, how do I now put it to work? How do I make sure that I'm being, as we talked about before, effective in delivering the business outcome?
Yeah.
And then what I love to talk about is, where is their business headed? So we can think creatively. I mean, it's one thing to be with a customer and they're prescriptive on things that they need, from a tech partner. But I'd much rather also have a complimentary conversation of, where are they trying to go? What are they
Yeah.
really trying to do in the business? Because we have some very creative people that have helped many customers make sure that they're thinking about the broader aperture of things that we could help them do, even if we can't do it ourselves, bringing a partner to bear to make sure that we're helping them navigate to their growth journey, or whatever the business ambition might be. So yeah, the customer conversations are indeed the best part of the role that I play,
And
and hearing my teams tell stories about customer successes is something that we celebrate, monthly.
oh, that's great. So can you, without naming names, so you have to bring any like actual customers, into it, but just, I'm kind of curious if you've got any stories that you'd be willing to share with me, of any customers that you have talked to and have helped, and what kind of help that you provided to them, particularly as it relates to AI. And I realize that we're early
Yeah,
days in AI.
yeah.
So maybe it's a two-part question. The first is, what customers have you helped and in what way? And it might just be just straight, vision and consulting and whatever. And then I am going to ask you after this, like, okay, where do you expect to be helping your customers as AI evolves? But let's start with where we are
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
I mean, there's a myriad of them. I wish we had more time, but there's
Okay.
there's some healthcare companies that right now, healthcare is a really good example, especially rural healthcare
Hmm.
or not for profit healthcare, where they may be underinvested in tech. And we've got some great examples. And this year was a really big one, where we're having great interaction with the customer to help them modernize their tech ecosystem, secure this ecosystem, and on the way to putting AI to work. So good examples there. We operate a lot in the sporting arenas.
Hmm.
We have lots of great customers in our markets that you may watch on the weekends. From a sporting standpoint, we have other customers building developments, mixed use developments that are that are now beginning to put not only AI, but other technology to work so that when you come to the restaurant or the concert, you live or work right in that ecosystem, that you're taking advantage of the most modern technology, as I said before, visitor experience capabilities to make sure that they're providing the best patron or exhibitor or tenant experience. So yeah, there's a myriad of use cases and verticals that we do every day.
Good.
To answer your second part of your
No,
question,
wait, before we even get to the
oh,
second
go
question,
ahead.
let
Yeah,
me also ask you, where do you draw the line? Like where, when you're talking to some of these customers, you mentioned earlier about like, well, we bring in partners, so at what point are you like, you know what, not something that we
yeah,
do, but we're going to connect you to partners. Where
yeah.
is that line and what types of partners do you bring in?
Yeah, it really depends on what the customer is asking, because
Mm,
what we will never do is commit to doing something that we are not confident we're capable of
sure.
delivering in a timely manner, delivering, with the value outcome the customer is seeking. So if it's marginal or outside of our wheelhouse, we'll have an open conversation with our customer to say, look, we think we should bring in this tech partner or that tech partner.
Right.
One of them, maybe get one of the hyperscalers at the table to have that conversation.
Do you
Get
mean like
another
do
AI.
you mean like developing applications or
In fact,
implementing an ERP system or something that's
you're
just
exactly
not
right.
something you do?
You're
Right.
exactly right. In the healthcare space, would we bring the Epic folks to the table? ERP would, would we bring, others to the table to make sure we can have the right conversation? We do a lot of internal app modernization, but we also outsource a lot of it. And we're very open with our customers. Like, we're going to use this partner because we trust them and they do great work for us, and we're going to bring them to the table because we want to make sure we deliver on time and deliver the capabilities. So that's the kind of thing. We've a company that is celebrating 128 years in business,
Yeah.
and we're a private company today, Cox Communications as well as Cox Auto, Cox Enterprises, and we don't make commitments to customers we can't do.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
All right. So now part two. Us talk about the future. Like, where do you, I mean, you're a young man. Look yourself, look ahead 5, 10 years from now as you're doing this. Are you, what types of things, how do you think Cox will be involved in, your customers' AI plans in the future
yeah,
as AI evolves and actually becomes more reality than hype, which is kind of what it is right
yeah.
now?
I think. I mean, if I try to, envision fast forwarding, I think in the very near future, well, it may not be 5 or 10 years, the customer will have an ecosystem of AI capabilities, agentic capabilities across many different functions in your organization.
Sure.
And I would foresee we will be helping them optimize, refine that ecosystem of AI capabilities,
Hmm.
and make sure they're continuing to evolve those with the options that may develop over time, whether it's where to house those workloads and how to put other AI models to work that are in the marketplace. But there's going to be this, rapid, iteration on how customers are deploying AI, putting AI to work. And I think I forgot who the author is that said this in the last 6 months. We had a speaker on one
Hmm.
of our leadership calls, and I think it speaks to it. This is the absolute worst AI that we will ever experience.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
think about that, and just the evolution that's going to take place, and at the pace of evolution that's going to take place. We're excited about where the place we hold, right, from an infrastructure fabric standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint for the hyperscalers and all that, and then consulting with our customers to make sure they can action it toward value.
Yeah, that's great. By the way, that line is fantastic, and you can also say that for pretty much any technology. By the way, like anything that we're using right now is the
Yeah,
worst version
yeah,
of it right now.
yeah,
You and I are recording this on Zoom, and as good as Zoom is, we will look back on this and be like, boy, Zoom was really terrible back in 2025 compared to the way it is now.
yeah.
So
You're
it
probably right.
really it does depend. How about you, Jeff? Before and we're almost out of time here, but I'm just curious. What do you use in your own personal life, and what are your thoughts on AI? Do you trust it? Are you concerned about
Um,
privacy?
you
What do you
know,
tell your customers about this
I
stuff?
I haven't turned various publicly available capabilities loose on kind of my personal ecosystem yet,
Mm,
but I love using the tools for things that I have interest in. Like for travel planning, it's a godsend,
yeah.
because I enjoy doing the planning, but it just makes it so much easier and prioritizes things. You can ask nuanced, kind of prompts and questions. So yeah, but I trust it because I'm not turning it loose on kind of my, private data and ecosystem yet. I'm sure that'll happen in very short order. But yeah, I enjoy using it. I probably am not as astute as many others that work for me that are just, over the top.
Fair enough. All right, that's fair enough. I have ChatGPT. I use it all the time, and just of late, I use it for TV show recommendations. Like, oh, I
Nice.
watched this show and really
Yeah.
liked it, and recommend, and it's amazing. And then I use it for like nutrition and diet. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all right, tonight I'm gonna have this for dinner. How bad is it?
I need to start that one. I mean, I do use it at work as like, typically we say things with way too many words, and I will have ChatGPT or just something help me get it to condense it. And then in the personal life, it says I just want to be. So I need to start using it for nutrition.
Yeah, it's funny. And then at work, I use it for research a lot. And I'll even be like, I want to refer, like, I'm speaking to Jeff Breaux, like I'm writing something. And then sometimes I go to websites and I don't, I can't even figure out what a company does just by their website. It's that. And I'll give it to ChatGPT and be like, can you summarize what this company does in like 50
What do they
words?
really do?
Yeah, and it's able to figure it out for me. So that's good. Well, Jeff, it's been great speaking with you. I appreciate your time. This chapter that I'm going to write after you and I speak is really about how a telecommunications company like Cox is in the middle. You sort of bridge the use of AI at your customers and also the connectivity of all things AI to the data centers that are out there. You guys are like, you're really this critical bridge in the ecosystem to make sure people AI is being leveraged. And I don't think that's a story that's told very often. And that's what I'm going to. Okay.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the invite. Thank you for having me. If you want more, let's get back together. And
Sure.
we are plumb excited about, to your point, the role that we play. We think we have a fairly unique role in that we play kind of those many, 3, 4 layers in kind of this AI revolution that we're in the midst of. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jeff.